She was distracted all through the fitting of Ron's and Harry's new robes. Tried to sell Hermione wizard's dress robes instead of witches, and when she finally bowed them out of the shop, it was with an air of being glad to see the back of them. "Got everything?" asked Hagrid brightly when they reappeared at his side. "Just about," said Harry. "Did you see the Malfoys?" "Yes," said Hagrid, unconcerned. "Pew, they wouldn't dare make trouble in the middle o' Diagon Alley, Harry. Don't worry about one them." Harry, Ron, and Hermione exchanged looks, but before they could disabuse Hagrid of this comfortable notion, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley and Ginny appeared, all clutching heavy packages of books. "Everyone all right?" said Mrs. Weasley. "Got your robes? Right then, we can pop in at the apothecary and Elops on the way to Fred and George's. Stick close, now." Neither Harry nor Ron bought any ingredients at the apothecary, seeing that they were no longer studying potions, but both bought large boxes of owl nuts for Hedwig and Pigwidgeon at Elops Owl Emporium. Then, with Mrs. Weasley checking her watch every minute or so, they headed farther along the street in search of Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, the joke shop run by Fred and George. "We really haven't got too long," Mrs. Weasley said. "So we'll just have a quick look around and then back to the car. We must be close, that's number 92, 94. "Whoa," said Ron, stopping in his tracks. Set against the dull, poster-muffled shop fronts around them, Fred and George's windows hit the eye like a firework display. Casual passers-by were looking back over their shoulders at the windows, and a few rather stunned looking people had actually come to a halt, transfixed. The left-hand window was dazzlingly full of an assortment of goods that revolved, popped, flashed, bounced, and shrieked. Harry's eyes began to water just looking at it. The right-hand window was covered with a gigantic poster, purple like those of the Ministry, but emblazoned with flashing yellow letters. "Why are you worrying about you know who? You should be worrying about you know poo. The constipation sensation that's gripping the nation." Harry started to laugh. He heard a weak sort of moan beside him and looked around to see Mrs. Weasley gazing, dumbfounded, at the poster. Her lips moved silently, mouthing the name you know poo. "They'll be murdered in their beds," she whispered. "No, they won't," said Ron, who, like Harry, was laughing. "This is brilliant." And he and Harry led the way into the shop. It was packed with customers. Harry could not get near the shelves. He stared around, looking up at the boxes piled to the ceiling. Here were the skiving snack boxes that the twins had perfected during their last, unfinished year at Hogwarts. Harry noticed that the nosebleed nugget was most popular, with only one battered box left on the shelf. There were bins full of trick wands, the cheapest, merely turning into rubber chickens or pairs of briefs when waved, the most expensive beating the unwary user around the head and neck, and boxes of quills, which came in self-inking, spell-checking, and smart answer varieties. A space cleared in the crowd, and Harry pushed his way toward the counter, where a gaggle of delighted 10-year-olds was watching a tiny little wooden man slowly ascending the steps to a real set of gallows, both perched on a box that read, "Reusable Hangman, Spell It or He'll Swing. Patented Daydream Charms." Hermione had managed to squeeze through to a large display near the counter and was reading the information on the back of a box bearing a highly colored picture of a handsome youth and a swooning girl who were standing on the deck of a pirate ship. One simple incantation and you will enter a top-quality, highly realistic 30-minute daydream, easy to fit into the average school lesson and virtually undetectable. Side effects include vacant expression and minor drooling. Not for sale to under 16s. You know, said Hermione, looking up at Harry, that really is extraordinary magic. For that, Hermione, said a voice behind them, you can have one for free. A beaming Fred stood before them, wearing a set of magenta robes that clashed magnificently with his flaming hair. How are you, Harry? They shook hands. And what's happened to your eye, Hermione? Your punching telescope, she said ruefully. Oh blimey, I forgot about those, said Fred. Here. He pulled a tub out of his pocket and handed it to her. She unscrewed it gingerly to reveal a thick yellow paste. Just dab it on, that bruise'll be gone within the hour, said Fred. We had to find a decent bruise remover. We're testing most of our products on ourselves. Hermione looked nervous. It is safe, isn't it? She asked. Course it is, said Fred bracingly. Come on, Harry, I'll give you a tour. Harry left Hermione dabbing her black eye with paste and followed Fred toward the back of the shop, where he saw a stand of card and rope tricks. Muggle magic tricks, said Fred happily, pointing them out. For freaks like Dad, you know, who love Muggle stuff. It's not a big earner, but we do fairly steady business. They're great novelties. Oh, here's George. Fred's twin shook Harry's hand energetically, giving him the tour. Come through the back, Harry, that's where we're making the real money. Pocket anything, and you'll pay in more than galleons. He added warningly to a small boy who hastily whipped his hand out of the tub labeled edible dark marks. They'll make anyone sick. George pushed back a curtain beside the Muggle tricks and Harry saw a darker, less crowded room. The packaging on the products lining these shelves was more subdued. We've just developed this more serious line, said Fred. Funny how it happened. You wouldn't believe how many people, even people who work at the ministry, can't do a decent shield charm, said George. Course, they didn't have you teaching them, Harry. That's right. Well, we thought shield hats were a bit of a laugh, you know, challenge your mate to jinx you while wearing it and watch his face when the jinx just bounces off. But the ministry bought 500 for all its support staff. And we're still getting massive orders. So we've expanded into a range of shield cloaks, shield gloves. I mean, they wouldn't help much against the unforgivable curses, but for minor to moderate hexes or jinxes. And then we thought we'd get into the whole area of defense against the dark arts, because it's such a money spinner, continued George enthusiastically. This is cool. Look, instant darkness powder, we're importing it from Peru. Handy if you want to make a quick escape. And our decoy detonators are just walking off the shelves, look, said Fred, pointing at a number of weird-looking black horn-type objects that were indeed attempting to scurry out of sight. You just drop one surreptitiously and it'll run off and make a nice loud noise out of sight. Giving you a diversion if you need one. Handy, said Harry, impressed. Here, said George, catching a couple and throwing them to Harry. A young witch with short blonde hair poked her head around the curtain. Harry saw that she too was wearing magenta staff robes. There's a customer out here looking for a joke cauldron, Mr. Weasley. And Mr. Weasley, she said. Harry found it very odd to hear Fred and George called Mr. Weasley. But they took it in their stride. Right you are, Verity, I'm coming, said George promptly. Harry, you help yourself to anything you want, all right? No charge. I can't do that, said Harry, who had already pulled out his money bag to pay for the decoy detonators. You don't pay here, said Fred firmly, waving away Harry's gold. But you gave us our startup loan, we haven't forgotten, said George sternly. Take whatever you like, and just remember to tell people where you got it, if they ask. George swept off through the curtain to help with the customers, and Fred led Harry back into the main part of the shop to find Hermione and Ginny still poring over the patented Daydream charms. Haven't you girls found our special Wonder Witch products yet? Asked Fred. Follow me, ladies. Near the window was an array of violently pink products around which a cluster of excited girls was giggling enthusiastically. Hermione and Ginny both hung back, looking wary. There you go, said Fred proudly. Best range of love potions you'll find anywhere. Ginny raised an eyebrow skeptically. Do they work? She asked. Certainly they work, for up to 24 hours at a time depending on the weight of the boy in question. And the attractiveness of the girl, said George, reappearing suddenly at their side. But we're not selling them to our sister, he added, becoming suddenly stern, not when she's already got about 5 boys on the go from what we've. Whatever you've heard from Ron is a big fat lie, said Ginny calmly, leaning forward to take a small pink pot off the shelf. What's this? Guaranteed 10-second pimple vanisher, said Fred. Excellent on everything from boils to blackheads, but don't change the subject. Are you or are you not currently going out with a boy called Dean Thomas? Yes, I am, said Ginny. And last time I looked, he was definitely one boy, not 5. What are those? She was pointing at a number of round balls of fluff in shades of pink and purple, all rolling around the bottom of a cage and emitting high-pitched squeaks. Pygmy puffs, said George. Miniature puffskins, we can breed them fast enough. So what about Michael Corner? I dumped him, he was a bad loser, said Ginny, putting a finger through the bars of the cage and watching the Pygmy puffs crowd around it. They're really cute. They're fairly cuddly, yes, conceded Fred. But you're moving through boyfriends a bit fast, aren't you?